Hello and welcome everybody. We are just now getting started. We've just hit start broadcast on this webinar and you are all piling in, which is amazing to see. It is Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. in Sydney. Say that because this is live. You're in for a live webinar. This session is supported by Approval Max, Fathom and Ignition. We're talking about how to optimize accounting processes with automation, the 10 easiest processes to change according to our industry experts. And we do have some amazing people giving you some great information. For those that don't know me, my name is Trent McLaren and I am host for this session. Before we get started and run you through the agenda, I like to run through housekeeping. So I want to make sure that you're comfortable. Hopefully you've got a coffee, tea, water. I just discussed with our panel what they had for lunch, and the key takeaway was that no one's had lunch because they were so busy preparing for this session. If you want to put in the chat and just tell us that you can see and hear us okay, well, at this point you can hear and see me. You can see our wonderful panel and their professional backgrounds. Thank you, Scott. Feel free to tell us where you're dialing in from. I'll start. I'm dialing in from Maroubra, Eastern Sydney suburbs. Feel free to put it in the chat. Tell us whereabouts in the world you are. Port Vila, Vanuatu. Scott, wow, way to just tell us how life should be. That's remote working for you. Oh, New Zealand, Sydney, Western Queensland. See, this is about bringing people together, and I love it. So awesome. So good to see the chat is working. We also have the Q&A function. So if you've got a question for anyone on the panel, you can throw that into the Q&A section. And I think I can see two. Christchurch. Welcome, Cheryl. Welcome, Jamie from Perth. I feel like I'm on a talk show sometimes, you know, it's like a radio show. Melbourne, I'm assuming the weather's okay. Gold Coast, Auckland. All right, we're moving on. Good to see you all here. Thanks for testing out the chat. To kick things off and to keep this engagement going, I want to understand from you today, what are the things that you are having challenges automating within your business? What processes do you think are the most challenging to automate? This is a multiple poll choice. Is it accounts payable, receivable, payments, reporting, onboarding, or other? If you think there's something else that's more challenging than the things that we have listed, then you should put it in the chat and you should tell us specifically what you're having trouble with. And our panelists are going to run through and talk about all these areas today. So lucky you're in the right webinar. Now, spoiler alert, payables and reporting are leading the poll on terms of what processes do you think are the most challenging to automate. Now, while we're here, I'm going to talk through and introduce everyone on the session. Firstly, I'm going to introduce Brendan Lucas, Head of Accounting for Approval Max. Brendan, how are you?
Really well, thanks, Trent. Yourself?
Mate, very well, thank you. I feel like you and I get to hang out fairly regularly on these and I enjoy it every single time. My question for you, tell us about your role at Approval Max and what you do there. And then I'm going to ask you about automation in this industry. But let's start with you and your role at Approval Max.
Yeah, so my role with Approval Max is basically to bring that industry knowledge to the team building the product and looking to explain how that can benefit accountants. So I run my own accounting firm as well, Next Dimension Accounting. So we work with business and non-profit clients. So I've got a lot of hands-on experience using Approval Max with my team and my clients. So I take that knowledge and give that and help guide Approval Max. And be a bit of a sounding board with different things they're looking at to make sure that the product is doing what we need it to do to help automate and save us time. As well, fun part of the role is coming on to webinars like this and trying to explain to people who aren't using the system what it could do for you and and hopefully getting them to go and have a look at it because it's a great piece. It's a really key part of our tech stack in my business.
Yeah, love it. Very cool. Love that. Well, thank you for being here. I'm going to end the poll. We're going to share the results while I ask Tom about him. Tom, tell us about you and your role at Fathom.
Yeah, so I'm a CA, not practicing anymore, but did that a long time ago, and I head up the advisory channel at Fathom. So my team basically helps accountants understand the 5 areas of Fathom. So it's a platform to help conversations with clients and really help clients understand how to improve the performance of the business. So analysis tools for sort of analyzing business decisions going forward, key performance indicators, 3-way forecasting and budgeting. We also do some benchmarking stuff, consolidations, and that all wraps into reporting, which will be helpful for people to know today. And I also act as a bit of a bridge between what accountants are looking for and feeding back to the product team as well as we continue to iterate and build on our product. And as Brendan says, continuing to help accountants, do the work quicker and then help their businesses, their clients faster. So yeah, that's a bit of an overview.
Yeah, very good, mate. Well, it's good to have you here. And reporting is sitting nice and high as the process that we think is the most challenging to automate. So we look forward to getting your insights on that. Before we jump into that, Georgia, lovely to have you here. Tell us about yourself and your role at Ignition.
Thanks, Trent. So as you said, my name is Georgia. I head up our key account management team here at Ignition APAC. So our team's focus is to help all of our customers along their journey here. So right from the very beginning with the onboarding and implementation, and then really helping them to sort of settle in and unlock as much value as they can from the platform and beyond.
Love it. Awesome. Well, we're very happy you're here. You can see client onboarding ranked fairly well in terms of things that are challenging to automate. That's probably my first question before we kick off. I'm going to actually keep it centered around the poll because that's the information we're looking at. Brendan, I'll start with you just in terms of your experience automating things in your practice. What was the most challenging thing or still the most challenging thing you've been trying to automate in your firm, or what you remember as being the most challenging?
Look, I think our biggest challenge is often still prioritization and trying to work out trying to streamline how we run our business, given that, you got different noises from different stakeholders, different staff, different way people want to work, and trying to just make that work. I think there's always the ability to be more efficient and to optimize. It's just trying to work out how you best pull the team together to do that. So I think that's an ongoing challenge, but I think we're getting there with a bit of experience as well.
Yeah, awesome. Very good. Tom, what about you, mate? Obviously from your time as a CA or even just the partners you work with, what do you see as the most challenging thing to automate?
Yeah, I think it is that reporting information, whether it's taking, forecasting information into the report or historic data into the report. Obviously, there's a lot of Excel usage or Power BI now, and even feedback I get with other systems is they're not streamlined as Fathom. That's the feedback I get. So I think just building those reports out, which obviously at the start you still got to build the report, but product like Fathom you'll see can do that very quickly. Once you've set up the report, then the automation really kicks in. So the repeat setup of the report going forward. So I think lots of good news stories for accountants now. Yeah,
awesome. Very good. Okay. Well, George, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I think it's going to lead into the things that we're going to talk about. So I'm going to stop sharing the pieces we've got here. And I'm keen, so for everyone that's playing along at home, you're in the chat. We're running through the 10 things that we think you could be automating within your business. We're going to hear from both Georgia, Tom, Brendan, and myself at the end, going through those 3 or 4 key things that we think you could be automating if you're not already. So for this first piece, I'm going to ask Georgia to step up to the plate in the sense and talk us through the automation that Ignition and Georgia believe you should be and can be automating in your firm right now. So Georgia, please take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you. Lucky first. So in terms of, streamlining the client onboarding process, the first one that we're going to tap into and, where it all begins is engaging your clients, which we know can be a really messy, time-consuming process. Historically, hopefully not too much anymore, but people have had to, manually type up a Word document, send it off to the client, wait for them to print it, sign it, scan it back, which can take, weeks and sometimes, multiple follow-up attempts with the client as well. And often because it can be such a painful process, we have people that will come to us and say they haven't re-engaged in years, or at times have never even engaged at all. We actually did a recent deep dive into this, and it indicated that 91% of practices have started work without having a signed engagement letter in place, which can be a huge risk of not being compliant, but also a major risk of scope creep as well, which I know is a term we're all familiar with, unfortunately. And that's really a byproduct of ambiguity or a lack of clarity between advisors and their clients around what's included or not included in the deliverables. So super critical that we can communicate effectively and ensure that these engagements continue to be up to date as possible as that client relationship evolves or the goalposts change, which they often do. Succumbing to that scope creep can make a huge difference to how businesses are able to operate. And Australian firms on average leave over $100,000 of uncovered out of scope billing on the table each year on average, which is, it's not pocket change. So with Ignition, the proposal engine that we offer, it allows you to create a client proposal within minutes, and we've got our industry provided proposal templates available for you with a comprehensive library of services with really clear-cut deliverables and engagement letters from industry bodies such as CA, IPA, ABN, you name it. So it really takes the pain out of engaging, saves you time, and ensures that ultimately you're protected, whilst hopefully also becoming a lot more profitable as well. Trent, I know you use the platform. I'm not sure whether you've played around with our options feature yet, but you can even include, recommended proposal package options for your clients so that you can harness those additional value add opportunities as well, which has been super, super popular.
Yeah, I've got 2 points for you. One, we use Ignition at Journey. Journey is an agency professional services firm. And we do use the options functionality all the time because we use it for anchoring purposes, right? So we want to make sure that people have particular price points. It allows us to talk through the different value between option 1, option 2. I think I've seen some good examples of it for around ITRs. So whether you're offering insurance, do you want insurance as well as the ITR or any of the other things you want to go through? The second one, part of my role is doing demonstration reviews, like analyzing how people are pitching product and doing all those sorts of things. And I listened to a story of a lady this morning who spends 3 hours doing each engagement letter. And I couldn't comprehend it. I was like, what are you doing for 3? Like, even in a world of chat GPT, right? Where you think, hey, I could just write this out really quickly. So yeah, no, there's and she does 10 of those a month, right? So it's 30 hours every month crunching out a Word document. So yeah, I can already count the time and the hours on where you could solve and automate a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, ouch, that's a lot of time. No, we've seen on average, customers been able to save around 18 hours plus per week in creating proposals and managing some of that client billing. So no small feat at all. But we can move on to our next topic. Next, Trent. So next one is around payments, which is everyone's favorite, getting paid. And this one really comes down to cash flow certainty and ensuring that you're getting paid on time for the work that you're already doing. We know that awkward client conversations can pop up all the time, and by their own admission, sometimes people in the accounting and bookkeeping industry can tend to shy away from these conversations. They're uncomfortable. But it's arguably, one of the big pain points in the industry that we can see right now, with firms losing out on revenue and cash flow due to unbilled work and late payments. Average debtor days for firms in Australia are sitting around 50 days plus, which makes running a business increasingly difficult, especially as we kind of navigate some of this uncertainty in the economy at the moment. And it doesn't matter what your billing structure is, whether that's monthly fixed fees, quarterly, on completion, hourly. Once the job is completed, you want to have that certainty that you're going to get paid for that work. So Ignition allows you to capture your client's payment method at that point of engagement in line with your fee structure, which can then bring your accounts receivable down to 0. So not only increasing your profitability, but also saving you a ton of time. I think a really great bonus around using the automatic payment collection is that you're actually also able to automatically mark the invoice as paid, as well as reconciling the bank once that dispersal is completed. So that's hours of time in the ledger that you get back to focus on, more meaningful work, whether that be winning new clients or growing your business. So Trent, you mentioned ITRs just before, and the upcoming tax season, very topical. If you think about the time it can take to create an ITR proposal engagement, times that by sometimes 500 to 1,000 clients, that's hours and hours of work and client follow-up. And with Ignition, we've got pre-prepared ITR proposal templates with additions. You can send them out in bulk, capture your client payment details, even embed a checklist, and then let your invoicing, payment collection, and reconciliation work on autopilot. The magic begins. Thank you. So one of our lovely customers, our Dasher, was that we was able to grow his business by 40% when he automated these processes during a pandemic, no less. Truly speaks for itself, and that's definitely not the first time that we've heard that. A lot of our customers have been able to reduce their debtor days down to 0, grow their client base, and free up their team for more valuable billable work, which is amazing to see.
100
and
hours
then
is not lucky
last. It's not at all. And then our last one here, this is around workflow deployment with our connected app. So that's where we can start to see some of the really exciting actions begin to take place in the client onboarding process off the back of that signed engagement. So we know a lot of practices run into issues with, disjointed systems and, team members choosing their own adventure, going a bit rogue when it comes to, setting up client jobs and tasks. And on top of that, data hygiene can be a really strong pain point as well when there's no one source of truth across multiple platforms that we're using, which we know can be a nightmare to clean up. I hope no one here has had to deal with that so far. But with our workflow integrations, you can seamlessly deploy jobs into your connected tools such as Zero Practice Manager or Carbon on client acceptance. And I know practice managers particularly love this one because it reduces the need for manual data entry, repetitive tasks, and then also allows you to kind of establish what best practice should look like. So that we can have consistency across all of our client jobs, removing risk of errors or delay, and then once again speeding up that productivity, hopefully setting you up for scalability.
Absolutely. I mean, I've related to all these points. One, we push through about 100 grand a month through our Ignition systems at the moment. Now we pay out quite a lot in wages and stuff as well. So I think the important part there is that if cash flow is not flowing and I can't pay staff properly because we're chasing people, then that leaves you in a hole. But because of the amount of work that we bring in, we automate into Slack, into Asana, into all these places on the moment of things happening, because otherwise I've got an operations manager that has to manually do all those bits, and she needs to make sure that the brief matches the scope of the work and the scope of the work matches the tasks, and then we've got all this allocated to the right person. So yeah, I agree with all of your points, and these are all really good things to automate. So yeah, no, well done. Is that your last one, Georgia?
I've got one more just to tie it all together. Just shows you the complete end-to-end picture for those who are a little bit more visual. So we streamlined the whole client onboarding process here from creating the proposal within minutes, automating the invoicing, payment collection, reconciliation, and then, as you said, Trent, triggering off all of those actions once that's been signed into your connected workflow apps, hopefully allowing you to get paid faster, become more profitable, and operate more efficiently, which is the reason that we're here.
Awesome. There's one question for you, and payment installment plans came up. Is that something you guys facilitate?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a large chunk of clients, come to us with, data issues, and they want to create those installment plans. So absolutely. And you can have those sort of running alongside the work that you're actively billing at the same time as well. And there's a lot of customization around how you approach that. You can use our proposal options that we were referring to earlier to even provide your clients with, different ways of paying back some of, that debt as well. So by all means, it's one of the perfect use cases.
Awesome. Very good. Well, we've covered 3, or wrapping it into 4 points on automating your client onboarding. Thank you, Georgia. Appreciate that. As you found, everyone, if you've got questions, send them through, because we'll ask them as we go. Brendan, I want to talk through payables now. So we've talked about receivables and how we streamline that part of your firm in this sense, or maybe you've got clients that you're trying to automate for. Payables. Talk us through the payables automations and the 3 or 4 things you think everyone should focus on.
No worries, we'll do. Okay, so the first thing is actually approving a bill for payment. So before I deal about approval, Max, I'd see my clients doing one of 2 things. Either one person like finance would be in charge of getting all the bills and approving them for payment, and what would happen is that bills will be getting paid that were wrong. But it was easier that finance had them all, because once they went out to someone else's desk, they'd never come back. Or we need to go to this manager to approve these bills. This person over here, Harry, should approve these bills, but not that one because that's his brother-in-law. So this one has to get approved by Sally over here. And if it's over $10,000, the CEO wants to see it. And what happened was a real tangled web of where the hell the bills were supposed to go, who was supposed to approve it. That then the only person who really knew that was the finance person. And so they would then spend all this time coordinating paper shuffling. Now, this is obviously, a lot of this is pre-COVID stories when everyone went into the office every day. So that slowed things down for a couple of really important things. One, paying the suppliers who are helping you out deliver your services to clients, which you pay people quickly, they seem to like you become pretty important to them, and they'll makes it easier to do business with them going forward. And the second one is you got no idea what your accounting results are, so you can connect up to Fathom, but you haven't even put the bills in the system, then you don't actually have your true result for the month. So we found that by having the old paper stamp and all that paper shuffling, it was really messy. And now that we've moved into this post-COVID world where no one goes, remote working is very much the norm, and physically having a desk is unusual. Now what people do is people are flicking bills around via email or Slack or Teams to see if it's approved. But then we've got the same issue of trying to keep track of everything, which is a nightmare. So what Approval Max does is basically you put your rules in, whether it's by supplier, dollar amount, or accounting code, and you can set that matrix. And it's so easy, where then it makes all that electronic. You can keep track of where it's up to. You can log into Approval Max as Xero, see where bills are sitting, and it allows business owners or management to actually give some accountability and ownership to their team. So rather than them take control of everything. So I had one manager of like a $10 million non-profit turnover. And when it was payment time, she'd have to approve the batch, and she'd get every single bill in a big pile of paper. And she'd flick through them all and tick them all off before she went and approved the batch payment. Brought in Approval Max, is right, you guys approve all the bills. If it's over $5,000, I want to see it in Approval Max. Otherwise, that's your budget, your job, away you go. All of a sudden, she had 1 or 2 bills to approve a repayment run, and it took her, a couple of minutes to do a general overview, which freed up her time significantly, and also allowed the managers to better understand their business and what their costs were. So where they didn't see that, there's budget tracking, all these sort of things inside Approval Max. So really easy process to digitize a very simple process like approving bills, but allowing you to put any customization you need in, and you can set it up in a couple of minutes. Like, it is really easy.
And I think what about this, I guess, that I hear when you're saying all that is it's not even just the automation, it's now about visibility and control. Because if you're trying to manage approvals in email or text message, or was it BTX? They were doing it in Slack with emojis, right? They were just like tick, yeah, pay that. How do you manage this when you don't have that? Is probably my piece. Even if it's sure we're automating something, but having a really clear, strict set of train tracks that people have to follow means you can bring consistency every single time.
Oh, look, agreed. And look, and I've got a team of accountants providing, in-house accounting, outsourced accounting to multiple clients. We need to be able to have oversight of that as a team, and having it within a system makes it so much easier. Where if you get an email and Slack, it's only that person. So it makes it very difficult when you're going to have changes in your team, whether in your in-house or external accounting staff. So being able to have that in the system, have that continuity. It's a succession. It just keeps moving where the people come and go, changing roles. The system can keep working, couple of clicks, and you continue, or even holidays. All those sort of things, but it can be quite messy, or they just wait till they come back. Like, that's not how you want to run a business. You want to just get on with it.
Yeah, cool. Love it. Well, let's jump into number 5.
Right. So it's all good that you set all your approval rules up and say you're going to approve this, and you can only approve that. But how do you figure out when the rules weren't followed? So depending on what coloured stamp you were using, or pen, or how you were trying to track that in the old way, it can be quite difficult. And, payments can be going out of the bank account, bills can be put into the system, and without something like ApprovalMax, how do you know which ones have gone through your approval system and not? So what I love about this, and I got an email just yesterday about it for my own business. Wasn't fraud, thankfully. I'll explain that in a bit. But basically, any bills that came through and just get hard coded, approved, and zero, the administrator gets an email. So I got one yesterday saying, hey, this payment to one of my staff members got approved, and hey, it didn't go through ApprovalMax. So bang, I could be straight on it, have a look, see if it was an issue. Sometimes I know that's been an issue where my ops manager has approved things quickly because she wanted to get them paid. And so at least then I still at least knew what had been approved. In this case, the bill had actually been approved, but we actually paid it through Wheel. And so that was simply, they were just cleaning up the Wheel transaction. So I was like, yep, cool. No, I'm across that. It was already within our budgets. We're fine. So again, just that automatic, don't need to think about it. I don't even need to run a report to see what's gone through outside of ApprovalMax, because I'm getting these automatic email triggers, which is great. And it's good when you want to give accountability and control to other people, because you want to free yourself. That's great, but it's how do you still keep an eye on things without creating too much work, and something that's automatic means it will just happen and you can rely on the system. And that's what I really like about this.
Awesome. I had a question for you. You know how we love our questions.
Questions.
There's only one this time though. Can ApprovalMax get bills into Xero for coding before it gets approved by management in ApprovalMax?
Short answer is no, because the way Xero works is you've got an awaiting approval area and an awaiting payment sort of status. And so ApprovalMax will work off the status. So while it's in awaiting approval, that's when ApprovalMax kicks in. If you've moved to awaiting a payment, then ApprovalMax is no longer required. So where you've got that issue where I'm guessing you may have maybe some people aren't that quick at approving bills, you can run reports out of ApprovalMax or Xero, which will show you what's pending. And so what we will do, say at a month-end point of view, is we'll run that report and then raise a journal at the end of the month to still bring those costs in if they haven't been approved, and then just push those dates to the next month. So you can still close off early. Again, the good thing about this sort of system is at least you know what's missing. So you can get around that, where the old paper shuffling or Slack and email, not something you can actually easily keep track of. So I hope that sort of helps as to how you can work around that.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Natasha. We appreciate it. We love questions, everyone, so keep them coming. Going to move to number 6, audit reports.
So again, I talked about sort of letting go, giving control to other parts of your team, letting them step up. But how do you quickly know what's happened? You got to pay a bill. You go, hang on, why are we paying this? Who approved it? You can jump in. So these sort of audit reports get attached to the Xero next to your bill, your PDF of your bill. So you can quickly see what's happened, who approved it, when. So even if something's come in and looks like it's a bit late, you can see who sat on it, which I love to go, well, hang on. You know, person A approved it a week ago. Why am I only getting this as finally approved now? What took you a week? What's going on? What was there really an issue? Have we just neglected it? Likewise, if they get approved super quickly, you go, hang on, really? Did you even read the bill as to what we're approving? Auditors love it. So if you're an organisation such as a non-profit where you get audited, a big part they look for is controls to see if they can trust your financial controls, which then means they have to do less substantive testing, which means less detailed audit work, which if they do less of that, usually means less time for them, which hopefully means less costs for you from an audit perspective. So for them to be able to run, to access this sort of data easily in Xero or to run more detailed reports in Approval Max of that audit process, and can match that back to your, delegation matrix or whatever it is if you have something like that documented outside of Approval Max, it's really helpful. And again, I think of how it used to work when I was a trainee and had to do audit for a short period of time. We'd have to ask for all the different receipts out of folders, and then we'd have to go and look at the stamps and then work out if it was stamped and if it was signed off by the right person. And as a 20-year-old, I had no idea, trying to work out what the scriggle was, if that was that manager in finance or that manager in HR. It was quite funny, where this is really clear, really transparent, and just happens, which again I love.
Yeah, you mentioned about turnaround times for approval. Do you guys have as an SLA, like a service level agreement, on how long it should take to approve a bill or turn a bill around?
Oh, look, general expectation is got to be within the day. Because and the reason it can be quicker, but people have other stuff on, right? Approving bills isn't always the most important. But usually within 24 hours, if it's not approved, there's usually, it most likely means there's a problem. They're looking into it, because you can get those automatic reminders via email and I like to tell you to get approved. And the bit I like about that is if you set up your workflows right, from the way it's coming via Easier Bills or Dex into Xero, it can happen automatically with not anyone touching it, and all of a sudden it's approved and already in your accounting system. And that's to me, the power of it is that time and the no touch to get that expense in your system, so that when you're looking at your live reporting, you can actually see what your numbers are, and it's not hidden on someone's desk, which is how we used to operate. And the days of waiting, there's not many clients now where we're waiting 10 business days to report on month end, because we're basically reporting live on 1 to 2 days behind, just from a
remote work makes that hard too, right? Because you're not in there all the time. I've got some questions, but I'm going to come back so that we can get through our top tips. So nice. We're going to move into reporting automation. So Tom, you've been patiently hearing the first 6, and obviously coming from the polls before, we saw that reporting was the biggest thing people were saying as a challenge to automate. So why don't you kick us off with number 7?
Yeah, for sure. So 3 key areas, really: accountants advising businesses or reporting to business stakeholders want more automation with. And the first is forecasting, budgeting, planning, and that rolling through to a report. So, helping businesses set financial goals for the future using key financial metrics, which most often, are profit-based or cash flow-based, is essential to businesses' path to success, and conversely to avoid the risks of failure. But it's not at all straightforward to do this work. It's often quite frustrating and complicated. businesses need that clear direction, and they need the strategies to achieve the business objectives, and they need the ability to monitor that in reports and see how that plan is going. And the businesses that do that end up with financial freedom. So there's more cash flow in the business, there's more profits, and this translates to the ability to invest in, more employees, more assets, more supplies, and build the value of the business. So accountants are absolutely in the driving seat to provide all of that. They have the data, they have the expertise. What we get the feedback is that doing this in other systems, and obviously Excel, is incredibly time consuming and to build and maintain. Accounts are super busy, such a time investment. It becomes basically impossible certainly to do this in any scalable way. But what, I hear the feedback all the time with Fathom is that with this data automatically flowing in from the source account systems, the data is always up to date. And then you've got these cool features that help with a lot of the setup and making those changes that inevitably come when, business events of the future change. That's all very quick and automatic. And so I'm repeatedly getting this feedback of the time savings of, more than 50% to set up the forecast. And certainly then on that maintenance basis, that's incredibly fast. So plotting that course to success becomes, much easier to set up and maintain as accounts get used to, how to use Fathom. So that's my.
I can totally relate to this because we've been growing so stupidly quickly this year that every time I even try to do a forecast, it's different, different by a lot the next month and the month after and the month after. So I actually started a trial with you guys the other day going, I need to sort this out. My problem was I'm onto like my third Xero file because we've had to organize a new, set up a new structure like 3 times already in 6 months because we keep outgrowing the other one. But I will definitely be coming back to you guys very soon to sort this out because my spreadsheet is killing. It's very detailed, but it's killing me. So you're high on my list, mate.
Awesome. Next slide then.
Talk us through number 8. Oh no, sorry.
Let's have I'll just give a quick glimpse into Fathom here. So literally you can start the forecast instantly and have your data set up in seconds. And then you've got your P&L and your balance sheet and your cash flow all populated with your historic data. You can then go and use some very cool tools that automate planning your future business events. This is hiring a staff member. Now that's done in seconds. You've got the P&L and the balance sheet populated. And then you've got all your future business events, hiring staff members, adding assets to the business, whatever it is, set out in a timeline. So as soon as those changes happen, like to your business, maybe it's hiring some more staff. Okay, we're going to push that back and all the numbers spin in real time. And for those businesses where you're wanting to do a bit of scenario planning, you can do that very quickly as well. It's the click of a few buttons to turn off and turn on future business events or change the scenarios and split. Maybe you shift between, inflation gets better, inflation gets worse, and you can do that very fast as well. So just a little bit of an overview on how quickly you can start making changes in the forecasting and setting it up.
Very cool. Well, that probably leads us to number 8.
Yeah. So, building the forecasting super quick, but also getting that data into the reporting, and reporting is also looking back at historic information that's flowing from, Xero, QuickBooks Online, Moab, etc., or brought in from Excel. Tools like Power BI, I think I mentioned earlier, are great, but very time consuming, and standard systems like Xero, Moab, QuickBooks are great for recording that transactional detail and working with amazing apps like Ignition and Approval Max, but they don't really provide enough visual analysis that's meaningful. So accountants want we're seeing accountants want fast systems that are scalable, simple, and comprehensive. And business owners want that clear interpretation, that explanation from their accountant as the expert as to what's happening in the business and what to do to improve it, and over the next month or next quarter, etc. So I get the feedback that Fathom's reports, are not just they're very quick to create, but you've got that automation built in as well. So financial data automatically populates from the source system every day. You can set up cool, meaningful visual graphics quickly and easily, translate that data into very meaningful information for business owners, business stakeholders, because often they don't understand tables of numbers. And then you can copy and use those templates that you set up, adjust them to create new templates very quickly and use those for different, other clients. And then you can automate the creation and roll forward of each report. So the data then just populates updated for the next month or quarter. And then you can automate the sending of the report. So pop into the accounting team's inbox, say 5 days post month end to review, or maybe 10 days post month end or 15, you want to send it to the client, etc. So that will automatically pop up in their inbox. So yeah, lots of cool stuff in Fathom.
Cool.
So that's next slide if you want to go on.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just a bit of feedback really, and this is just from a customer point of view. This is a lady who's heading up a department and division at a large firm in Brisbane. And this is the typical feedback that I get, that using this type of reporting is really freeing up the time and allowing then the firm to scale the value across the client base. So this department actually had a target of booking $1 million in new revenue using through advisory services in 18 months. That was actually achieved in 12 months. And I consistently get this feedback that these new revenue building service models that actually clients really want. They want to learn how to improve their business. They want to have better cash flow, less stress, more profits. It's actually, very doable with the systems and technology that's in place. So you can't keep adding more staff. The labor market is super tight, but you can use technology to free up time and drive that growth. So yeah.
Very cool. And coming into your last piece, we're talking about consolidations. I actually have a question about consolidations. So maybe I can ask you that while you go into this one. But the question that's come in was, can you report by tracking categories from, say, Xero across multiple Xero files, i.e. a group of businesses with the same 5 tracking categories, report all 5 categories as a consolidated position?
Yeah, we've actually literally done a release today to a bit of an added functionality with Xero and QuickBooks Online. You could always bring in tracking. I won't go into the detail, but you could always get tracking category data in, just changed how you do it. So it's more efficient. So yes, you can bring the data in and you can consolidate that information together. Always good to have a chat with one of the team just to make sure there's no nuance to what you're doing. But yeah, for sure, you can do that.
I feel like the fact that you've launched it today makes me feel like it was a planted question.
Not by me. So maybe someone else has planted it.
No, I'm just kidding. Talk us through this number 9.
Yeah. So yeah, consistently I get feedback around how annoying consolidations are. It's mostly done in Excel, but again in other systems. Very time consuming, particularly in Excel, prone to errors, lack of data accuracy. And I honestly get people's jaws just drop when they see how quick Fathom is to consolidate multiple entities together and have that information. So we get lots of feedback that the simplicity of doing it in Fathom and the features like the fast eliminations functionality and the ability to convert multi-currency data as well is a real wow piece. So that all flows through again back to the automated reporting. So you're getting the benefit of the automated reporting for the consolidations, but also the bringing the data together. So real game changers, I think, in the space.
Very cool.
Last slide from me is just a bit of customer summary on how it's been game changing for him. This is David Marr from Melbourne, Right Brain Insights.
Let me try that again.
Consolidations or consolidating any client data across entities or even different time periods was extremely manual. It would be a matter of downloading certain reports from different accounting software, having to chop and change spreadsheets. You would spend more time just filtering and fixing and cleaning the data than you would in actually analyzing and creating something of real value to a client.
So, I mean, that really hits the nail on the head. All the automation that all these products do just gives you more time back to actually do more valuable work. So I think that's something I'd round out on. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. There's a piece there in the chat asking if there's any links to the new update that you mentioned before as well, and just whether we can share that with everyone here. So whether that's posted into the chat or anything else, Brendan, Georgia, thank you. I can see you're answering those specific questions in the Q&A too. If you've got any other questions, ladies and gents, chuck them into the Q&A. You can put them into the chat. We are coming to our final lucky number 10. And this is actually mine. I got to put in my favorite one. And I don't make any money from Zapier, but I'm sure if I was set up on a referral agreement about 7 years ago, I'd be a millionaire by now. Because it's bloody awesome. I love it for a few reasons. Georgia touched on it before. When I think about Zapier and to give you the very simple version of what it does, it is a no-code piece of software. So when I want to integrate two systems together and they don't natively integrate together, sometimes I'm in a bit of trouble because I have to manually export it out and then import it into another system. I feel like I was constantly doing this between things like Zoom into HubSpot, as an example, about 4 or 5 years ago. Now they have a direct integration. So things go into Zoom, things automatically go into HubSpot. I can then automatically do webinar, emails and follow-ups and all kinds of things. Now, for you in your business, where this can be really useful, if it's an Ignition example, proposal accepted, it sends a Slack notification in that says, boom, you won a new customer. How good's that? And again, I've shared on LinkedIn what that looks like in our Slack channel at Journey. It's generally good fun. We put cowboy hat emojis and things in to just make it even funnier. But it's about bringing energy to some of those Slack channels. That's where I find that's really useful. But then also triggering a task or a job. I can outline the things I want to automate when something happens. So if you know that if I get an email, I want something to happen next and I'm trying to drive consistency, maybe it's a new lead off your website, automatically send this email saying, hey, we'll be with you quickly. So now I can build consistent communication with my new prospective lead or whatever it may be. The best part about Zapier is that it has over, I was going to say 1,000, I think it's more like 2,000 now, but it connects with so many different apps and platforms that you probably use every single day. If you are using Google Sheets specifically in your business, in your firm, there's some really good zaps you can have for Google Sheets all the time, or Airtable, big fan of, or any of the other different bits. And maybe my final question for everyone on the panel, if you're a Zapier user, what is your favorite zap that you would like to leave everyone with today, if you've got one? Now, that's putting you on the spot because we didn't talk about this, but I think that's fun for me to see how you, how fast you might react to it. Georgia, I'll start with you because I know you'll have one, and that'll give Tom and Brendan time to quickly think about one.
Oh, I have 1,000. We use Zapier for everything, and we try and get our customers to use it for everything as well. I think probably my favorite is being able to send out automated checklists or documents off the back of a new engagement being signed. So instead of having to sort of jump in, get everything together, customize it, off the back of that proposal being signed, we can sort of trigger a zap to go out to that new client with almost like a new onboarding checklist with everything they need. And that can be customized based on the services that you had in that proposal, which is super cool. So it's, again, just saving you that time and streamlining everything. But off the top of my head, that would be my favorite, but there's many more.
So the question that's come in, and then I'm going to throw to Brendan next before going to Tom. JC, you asked, is this a standalone automation tool? Yes, Zapier is a standalone no-code automation tool. So all you do is log into your software through Zapier saying, I want to automate Twitter with Slack, or Asana with Ignition, or whatever the apps are that you're using. It can actually be used for accounting tasks. So I've seen accountants get so I'm trying to use the right words, so loved up on Zapier that they would actually push journals into Xero or QBO, whatever they were using, because they couldn't get that automation to happen in the accounting software itself. So if you were seeing invoices coming from Shopify that weren't going into the accounting software properly, you might create a Zap that creates an invoice that does a thing into the software. But now you're in control of the automation and how you want to set that out. Brendan, how'd I go? Did you got a fun one for me?
I don't. I haven't had a proper play of Zapier. I've every now and then fumbled and then something else distracted me. But I must say I've really enjoyed this session because I don't use Fathom in addition at this point, but it's things I've fumbled with at different times. So that's motivated me a bit to have another look. And Zapier as well. I've got it up on the other screen, having a look, trying to find something. So I hope everyone's taken away at least half of what I've taken away out of this session. I've got lots of homework.
2 takeaways, mate. Have lunch and check out Zapier. Yeah. Tom, what about you, mate? How'd you go? What's your Zapier piece for us?
Nugget. Unfortunately, I don't have one either. I knew about Zapier a long time ago, and I heard it was super, useful to use. But I've never gone back to it and actually investigated it. So again, since originally hearing about it a few years ago. So yeah, I'd be keen to learn a bit more and get the updates. I was also just desperately trying to find that blog link, making sure we'd released that. So I've got it. So I'll paste that in the chat.
Well, I won't drag on too much more on Zapier, but the one motivating piece I'll give you, I can't remember the number, but it was like, if I spend $45 a month on Zapier, at a particular point, this is probably back in my Ignition days, Tom Maxwell would know this number off by heart, it was like 45 to 60 hours a month worth of tasks that were getting automated for $45 for the month. For $45. So I was literally paying like 16 cents an hour or something stupid to have all of these little 1%ers automated, and it was all within my control. Now, look, there's pros and cons. I've heard people say like, oh, but if this breaks or this, that, or, I've got to be on top of those things. Yeah, you do have to skill up and learn how to use Zapier. Totally worth it. It absolutely changes the way you think about automations, data, the way it gives you that automation mindset. I think Zapier does a really good job of giving you that piece. Vendors, all the examples we had were amazing examples of what tech companies are doing to automate within the software. But I think Zapier is one of my favorite ways of connecting everything else where there isn't naturally a connection. Now, as we round out the session, because we've been going for nearly 50 minutes, ladies and gents, well done on getting this far. What I would love to do as a bit of a thank you is find out who would you like to hear more about after this session. So we've been through and looked at Ignition, Approval Max, and Fathom in terms of the automation they bring to your business. You could be an accounting firm, bookkeeping firm, maybe you're a small business owner, any one of those three. Well, you can only be one of those three. You could be two of those things, actually, small business owner. And anyway, let us know. Let us know who you'd like to hear more about post this session, and you will get some more information from them following the webinar. I can see you're all filling that in, so thank you so much. I'm going to have a look to see if there's any other questions here. Tom, everyone's keen on that update, mate. So please, if you're interested in any of the updates or things that have been spoken about, click the poll. Let us know if you'd like to hear more about it from that person. It's multiple choice, so you can choose any one of them, or you can just say no, thank you as well, and that's totally fine. We're not offended. I'm going to just check all of you what's the one thing you've learned from this session today? So you've obviously been giving feedback and teaching all of us lovely people on your things, but what's the one thing you've picked up that you weren't expecting? Tom, I'll start with you, then Georgia, then Brendan.
What was the one thing that I picked up today?
Yeah, what's the one thing you've learned? There's 10 things we talked about. What's the one thing you've learned?
I know all about Fathom, but I think it's just how many cool things there are to do in those two other systems, so Ignition and Approval Max. I mean, in some ways it seems like quite obvious stuff, but that somebody's built this amazing software that does it in a simple way is, and that has taken years to build, by the way. But here it is all ready to use. So I think that's my takeaway. Yeah, go and check Approval Max and Ignition, because I'm pretty sure every accountant would be able to use those, for the businesses they work with or themselves.
Yeah, there's literally thousands of accountants that have tried and tested all of your solutions to get it to where it is today. And I always think that's quite cool that it is, and bookkeepers tried and tested in that sense. Georgia, what's the one thing you've learned?
Yeah, I've got to say the same. Even just, looking at our internal processes here and, doing a bit more of a deep dive around an Approval Max, it just kind of raised the question, especially when you were talking about headcount forecasting and that type of thing. I was like, I wonder if we're using these internally, because I can definitely see the value. So I think that was exciting for me. especially seeing, you know, all the different updates in the industry and how people are using these tools. So that was my biggest takeaway for sure.
Awesome. Brendan, what about you, mate?
Look, I've already mentioned Zapier, so I won't go there again. For me, I think the key is whatever you set up as far as your tech stack or systems and processes, it's worth revisiting, because software brings out new features. Your requirements change, so it can't be set and forget. So I think that to me is my takeaway. I'm looking here going, I feel a bit like a dinosaur sometimes, going, I'm really good at this, but geez, I've neglected those parts of my business. So I think it's just setting aside a regular time or a bit of a, you know, part of a workflow, whether it's quarterly, half yearly, worst case yearly, just to revisit what you've got, where your pain points are, and see what else is out there. Because there is a lot of good software tried and tested, and it might not suit you now, but it might later, or they might, you know, fix that pain point that you've got. We're talking hours of time for a fraction of the cost, and you know, it's a win-win.
Very good. Love it. Glad you've all learned something as well. Thank you for everyone that came along to the session. So in this session, we covered off the 10 things we think you should be automating or could be automating within your business. If you've opted in for our poll just towards the end there, you will get more information from the lovely team at Fathom, Ignition, and Approval Max. Thank you to our panel. If we were in a room, there would be roses, clapping, standing ovation. There's over 100 people in the session today, so it'll be a very crowded and fun, energetic room. I can feel that. You can see that based on the chat and the Q&A. Thank you for coming along, ladies and gents. Feel free to just put into the chat section and thank our panel. Thank them for coming and sharing their wisdom for you. And we look forward to seeing you at something again soon. So thank you, panel. You're amazing. Thank you for all the brands for putting this on and putting it together and bringing me along to help interview you all. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and go and have some lunch. You're allowed to now, guys.
Nice.
Cheers, Trent. Take it easy.
Cheers. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you, Trent.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, team.
Appreciate it.